I've seen so many people splurge on a budget soundbar that promises cinema-level audio, only to end up turning the volume up until the dialogue turns into mush and the bass rattles the picture frame. That regret is real, especially when you're trying to upgrade a modest living room setup without breaking the bank. The Samsung HWQS700F 3.1.2 channel soundbar paired with the new 42-inch OLED S90F is marketed as the answer to that problem, and honestly, the question is whether it actually feels like a smarter buy or just another pricey add-in. Link is in the description if you want to check the product details on Amazon. When I first unboxed the combo, the first thing I noticed was the way Samsung has tried to make the two pieces talk to each other. The TV's AI upscaler and the soundbar's multidimensional speaker array are supposed to sync automatically, which is a nice touch if you've ever wrestled with separate Bluetooth connections or HDMI/RC glitches. In practice, the TV recognized the soundbar right out of the box, and the on-screen menu gave me a quick calibrate option that measured the room's acoustics and adjusted the upfiring speakers accordingly. That kind of seamless integration is exactly the kind of convenience that separates a thoughtful system from a collection of mismatched components. Let's talk about dialogue clarity first, because that's where many cheaper soundbars stumble. The QS700F uses a dedicated center channel that is fed by a pair of upward-firing drivers, aimed at reflecting sound off the ceiling to create a more spacious soundstage. I tried it with a Netflix drama that's notorious for low-volume whispers, and the words came through crisp enough that I didn't have to keep squinting at the subtitles. The AI processor seems to analyze speech patterns in real time, boosting mid-range frequencies without making the whole mix sound artificial. For a living room that's also a home office, that means you can keep a conference call on while a movie runs in the background and still hear every word clearly. Bass performance is a mixed bag. The separate subwoofer is a solid 8-inch unit that delivers enough thump to feel the impact of explosions in an action film, but it's not the kind of deep, rumbling bass you'd get from a full-size 5.1 system. In a small to medium room, around 200,250 square feet, the sub integrates nicely, filling the space without overwhelming the mids. However, if your room has a lot of hard surfaces, think concrete walls or a glass coffee table, you'll notice a bit of boomy resonance that can muddy dialogue. The built-in bass Titan mode helps tame that, but it's a trade-off. You lose some of the visceral punch that a dedicated home theater sub can provide. Surround effect is where the upfiring drivers claim to shine. In a typical living room layout, the sound bounces off the ceiling and creates a sense of height that adds a layer of immersion for both movies and games. I tested it with a racing game that supports Dolby Atmos, and the engine sounds seemed to swirl above and around me, rather than staying flat on the left-right axis. That said, the effect is subtle. You won't feel like you're in an actual theater, but you do get a richer ambience than a standard 2-channel bar. If your ceiling is very low, under 8 feet, the upward reflection loses some of its impact, so the surround effect will feel muted. Room size is a practical consideration. Samsung says the system works whether it's mounted flat against a wall or laid on a shelf, and that's true. When I placed the bar on a low TV console, the sound projected forward and filled the room well. When I mounted it on the wall, the acoustic pattern changed slightly, with a narrower sweet spot directly in front of the TV. In a larger open-plan space, you'd probably need a second rear speaker or a more powerful sub to maintain consistent volume across the room. For most apartments or modest family rooms, the QS700F's power level is adequate. Connectivity is another area where Samsung tries to simplify things. The soundbar offers HDMI/RC, optical, Bluetooth, and Wi-Fi, plus built-in support for Spotify, Apple Music, and Amazon Music. Pairing my phone was a breeze. The Samsung SmartThings app detected the bar, and a single tap got it onto my Wi-Fi network. The remote, however, feels a bit crowded. There are dedicated buttons for TV volume, music, and game, but the layout can be confusing at first. Once you get the hang of the mode switch, you'll appreciate the ability to toggle between the TV's audio and a pure music feed without having to dive into the on-screen menu. Now, who should actually consider spending on this bundle? If you already own a decent TV and just want a modest bump in audio quality for movies, TV shows, and occasional gaming, the QS700F paired with the 42-inch OLED is a sensible upgrade. It's especially appealing if you value a single-wire setup. HDMI-RC does the heavy lifting, and want the soundbar to automatically adapt to different content types. Families that watch a lot of dialogue-heavy series, sports fans who